Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show.
You can actually block my attack, you were very good. Wu Liang stared at Lin Yu closely with stern eyes, no longer showing the contemptuous expression he had just now. The same as you. Lin Yu stretched out his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, but his heart was not as relaxed as it seemed. In the collision just now, the opponent didn't even use his explosive skills and blocked his full strength offensive. The strength is definitely the 10th level he has ever seen. The basic attributes have probably been enhanced to over 80,000, and may even be close to the full value of the 10th level, 100,000. Yes, the upper limit of attribute enhancement for a 10th level lord is 100,000. This is something Lin You only heard from other kings recently. It's just that because few people in the world can reach this level, no one mentions it. The opponent is obviously a person of this level. If he breaks out with all his strength, he may not be his opponent, but this time he won. Lin Yu smiled proudly, opened his palms, and a bright crystal emitting colorful light appeared in front of him, floating quietly. Fragments of the Godhead. He grabbed the fragments of the Godhead. Other kings heard exclamations from the side. When Wu Liang heard this, his expression changed and he finally came to his senses. However, Lin Yu would not give him a chance to snatch it again. As soon as a prompt sounded, the fragment of the Godhead in his hand turned into a stream of light and merged into his body. Congratulations, the integration is successful. The number of divine fragments has changed, and various ability bonuses have increased. The sweet prompt sound, accompanied by a huge force, instantly surged through his body. The body that had suffered heavy injuries gradually recovered, and even the power of rules, consumed in the battle just now, was replenished. Name: Godhead Fragment. Level 10, 6/10. Feature 1. The attributes of all arms are increased by 60%. Feature 2. The upper limit of the number of troops is increased by 60%. Feature 3. Unlock the power of rules. You can use the skills of existing arms, and the power is increased by 60%. Feature 4. Territory core concentration time reduced by 60%. Feature 5. Unlock the power of space. Freely travel through space, and have the ability to fly. Feature 6. Unlock the personal attribute panel. Introduction. Fragments containing divinity. After being integrated with the Lord, activate various abilities. The more fragments fused, the stronger the ability. It is a must for upgrading the territory of level 10 or above. You are seeking death. Seeing Lin Yu actually absorbing the fragments of the Godhead in front of him, Wu Liang's face suddenly darkened. A terrifying aura surged around him, and he was ready to take action again. But at this moment, the space next to him was distorted, and a majestic figure suddenly appeared and stopped in front of him. Wu Liang, please come and be fine. An old voice sounded, and an old man whose aura was comparable to that of Wu Liang appeared, with a faint smile on his lips. It's you. Seeing the person coming, Wu Liang immediately put away his breath, and his expression became solemn. Even the kings who were watching in the distance caused a commotion. It's the king of Daqing who doesn't have a perimeter. King Daqing, isn't that the strongest man of the 10th level, who is notoriously ill-proclaimed? I heard that his strength is almost as strong as the Infinite King, and even he is here. The kings stepped aside one after another, commanding their troops to resist the attack from the opposite side, while secretly paying attention to the situation here. Lin Yu, who had just absorbed the fragments of his Godhead, was also surprised. He didn't expect that another strong man, who could rival his opponent, would appear, and it seems that he is still from their anti-alliance camp, and he is even familiar with the Infinite King on the opposite side. Young man, please step back first, and I will deal with this guy. Wang Ting of Daqing turned his head slightly and whispered to Lin Yu. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, then his eyes lit up. He naturally desires someone who can hold off such a powerful opponent. After all, even if he could win, he still wouldn't be able to kill the opponent, not to mention that he might not be able to win yet. There was no point in wasting time on such an opponent, so without hesitation, he quickly said, "Thank you." After saying that, he turned around and left with his troops, away from the area where the two men were confronting each other. When the kings who were fighting nearby saw him, they also avoided him, all with solemn expressions on their faces. No way. The strength he showed just now is really terrifying. He can actually defeat a top powerhouse like the Infinite King. They don't want to face such a person. In addition, Lin Yu had just fused another fragment of his Godhead, and his strength had been greatly improved. As long as he was not stupid, he would not easily trouble him again. This also creates a strange picture. Everyone in the Realm Alliance avoided Lin Yu, and watched helplessly as he retreated to the back of the anti-alliance team. It was only then that the shocked Ji Xing, and the others finally came to their senses, with expressions of disbelief on their faces. This was the first time that they saw Lin You using all his strength with their own eyes, and they were extremely shocked. In just a few months, his strength has reached the point where he can fight against a strong man, with 9 fragments of his godhead. Is this really a 10th level lord, who has just advanced? Is there anything crazier than this in the world? That was until this time. They finally realized Lin Yu's terrifying strength, and they no longer dared to look at him with the eyes of a 10th level newcomer. Careful. Just as they were thinking, King Yu suddenly heard a startled reminder from the side, pulling them back. Without giving them a chance to think, the Realm Alliance launched another offensive, pressing them step by step. They had no choice but to put their minds back to the battle, desperately resisting the Realm Alliance's attack. In the blink of an eye, the entire scene broke into a battle again, and the flames of war continued to spread to all directions. Even after Lin You had just rested and recovered after retreating, several more Realm Alliance lords from other directions surrounded him. But this time he wasn't so lucky. All the opponents I met were opponents with about 5 pieces of godhead, and they were very cunning. If the situation was not good, they would run away immediately, or other people would come to disrupt the situation, and there was no chance to kill them. Due to the disparity in numbers, the anti-alliance camps teams also began to retreat, suffering a large number of casualties. Not only the high-level battlefield, but also the low-level battlefield. Hold on, everyone, hold on. Support is coming soon. We must not let the opponent break through the defense. Kill. The loud shouts of killing spread across the entire battlefield. The originally menacing anti-Union army struggled to resist the attack from the opposite side, but gradually, they realized something was wrong. Something's wrong. It's been so long. Why haven't the support from Gyeon realm arrived yet? A 10th level lord said solemnly, looking towards the other side of the monster plain. Although the two battlefields are far apart, with so many great emperors around, they should be able to reach them across space very quickly. But it's been so long now, and there's still no trace. Could something have happened? Boom! Suddenly, a loud noise sounded throughout the world. As if in response to their doubts, the entire Wanji continent began to shake violently. The barriers between the various realms were quickly dissolved in this shock. The continents are completely connected to each other, and they are squeezing crazily towards the monster plane, as if they want to completely merge together. Under the squeeze of the entire Wanji continent, bottomless huge cracks began to appear on the monster plane, spreading rapidly from the outside inward. No, the realms are starting to merge. The expressions of the emperors who were in the middle of a fierce battle all changed, and they all retreated. In the entire battlefield, this sudden change caused a large commotion, and they had no idea what was going on until a roar of laughter resounded throughout the world. Ha ha ha! I told you, there is no way you can suppress me. The entire world was shaken violently by the laughter, as if the entire sky was about to collapse at the same time. On the earth in the monster plane, a large amount of black evil energy began to emerge, gathering crazily towards a huge skeleton that suddenly appeared in the void. The pillars of light composed of the 72 heavenly demons also dimmed a lot in this vibration, and there was a feeling that they were about to extinguish. Obviously, the monster plane has shrunk again, causing their power to fade away as well. Once it fades to a certain level, I'm afraid there will be no way to maintain the seal and continue to suppress that terrifying existence. HMPH, as long as we are here, you will never escape from here. Suddenly, a cold snort resounded throughout the world. The 4 golden light pillars next to the portal in the deepest part of the monster plane suddenly erupted into a dazzling light. A terrifying ancient aura emerged, accompanied by the roar of dragons, roars of tigers, and cries of phoenixes, which actually suppressed the dissipated evil spirits. The 4 supreme demons. Lin You, who was on the edge of the monster plane, was shocked. The 4 deepest light pillars represent the top 4 strongest demons among the 72 demons. I didn't expect to see them attack with my own eyes today. To know that is a terrifying existence that is said to be insurmountable even by the great emperor of all realms. It has been suppressing the ancient portal in the deepest part of the monster plane. There is even speculation the strength of the 4 supreme demons has already broken through the shackles of this world and reached the legendary 13th level. It's useless. 10,000 years are coming, and you can't suppress me. The huge skeleton in the void roared angrily, then traveled through space again and disappeared in place, as if it had never appeared before. At this moment, the vibrations in the 10,000 realms continent gradually subsided and returned to their original appearance. But the lords from all walks of life can clearly feel that the barriers between them and the lords of other realms no longer exist, as if they are completely integrated. We're late. At this moment, a majestic voice sounded. The Holy Emperor, who was on another battlefield, finally arrived here with reinforcements across space. The great emperors of the Realm Alliance seemed to have expected this to happen. They took a deep look at them and waved their hands. Retreat. Without any hesitation, the entire Realm Alliance army began to evacuate quickly without any intention of fighting. A great battle finally ended with the retreat of the Realm Alliance. The anti-alliance camp also took advantage of the arrival of reinforcements and finally succeeded in breaking through the Boundary Alliance base camp and marching deeper into the hinterland of the Boundary Alliance. Until it was almost dark, they stopped their march and moved the war camp there with them. It's finally over. Jizing stood high in the sky with the other kings, looking at the direction in which the Realm Alliance army disappeared, and let out a sigh of relief. Each of them was more or less seriously injured. Some even suffered severe injuries and almost lost their lives, which was extremely miserable. The main reason is that the actions of the Realm Alliance this time were too sudden. Who would have thought? They would actually abandon the important pass on the Gyewan realm side, and instead concentrate on attacking the Taixuan realm side. After all, although the great emperors are all powerful, they are not omnipotent. What's more, they have to face the same emperor-level opposite. How can they be omniscient and omnipotent in the game between the same level? Even if you want to investigate, the other side won't let you find out their plans so easily. In addition, there is a terrifying existence hidden on the opposite side that threatens the safety of all worlds at all times. It is even more elusive and can only be adapted to circumstances. Fortunately, although their losses this time were huge, they were not beyond the point of being unable to make up for it. At least the casualties of the high-ranking lords were much less than expected. The only thing that is worrying is the changes in the 10,000 Realms continent and the monster plane. Anyone with a discerning eye can see such a big change, and I'm afraid something big is going to happen next as expected. While Lin Yu was repairing with the army, the voice of Emperor Xinyao suddenly came from the distance. Everyone above level 10, come here. The Emperor's voice was unusually serious, and even from a distance, the kings could feel something unusual, because they found out, in addition to Emperor Xinyao, who is usually the representative of the realm, even the emperors from other primitive realms came over. A total of 11 great emperors were gathering in the open space, in the distance to discuss something, their expressions extremely solemn. Lin Yu did not dare to hesitate and quickly stood up and hurried over with the other kings. In the blink of an eye, all the lords of the 10th level and above in the primitive world gathered together, making the entire open space lively. Lin Yu, Jizing and others nodded to each other, and then came to stand behind Emperor Xinyao. Then Emperor Long Yuan, who was wearing golden armor, glanced around and said straight to the point, I called you here to convey something important. You all should have seen what happened in the monster plane just now. The worlds merged, and the seals in the monster plane began to loosen. During this period, the Realm Alliance will probably organize forces to destroy the 72 Formation Eyes. By then, the monster plane will definitely fall into chaos. What you have to do next is to do everything possible to stop them. Emperor Long Yuan's voice was extremely thick, and at the same time it contained an irresistible majesty, which made all the kings look stern. Of course, everything is still based on your own safety. You must not act recklessly and give an advantage to the person on the opposite side. That's all I have to say. After saying that, Emperor Long Yuan stepped aside without saying a word. The kings below were talking a lot, with expressions of surprise and uncertainty. The Realm Alliance is going to attack the monster plane. Doesn't that mean that it will become more dangerous to go there in the future? This is definitely not good news for the weaker king. It can even be said to be bad news. But for some stronger people, it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, an opportunity that allows them to quickly obtain fragments of the Godhead and improve their strength level. Because on the battlefield, the lords cooperate with each other, it is almost difficult to kill the opposite high-level lord. But the monster plane is different. As long as you wait patiently, you still have a good chance of catching the lone high-level lord. Lin Yu and the team is holding this idea, and plans to make good preparations after returning this time to ambush the 10th level lord of the Realm Alliance. Great Emperor, can the seal in the monster plane not last long? Suddenly, Jizing on the side asked Emperor Xinyao in a low voice, interrupting Lin Yu's thoughts. Including him, all the kings under the Xinyao Empire were shocked, and couldn't help but look over. They had actually wanted to ask this question for a long time. Coupled with the solemn expressions of the emperors, they felt an unusual aura. Now when Jizing asked, all eyes immediately fell on Emperor Xinyao, wanting to get the answer from him. Emperor Xinyao seemed to have expected that they would ask this question, and frowned slightly, but in the end he sighed and said, originally I shouldn't tell you this, but since you all asked, I'll tell you. Yes, your guess is correct. It is estimated that in less than a year, the entire monster plane will completely collapse. By then, having said this, Emperor Xinyao paused and did not continue. But when these words fell into the ears of Lin Yu and others, They were like a bolt from the blue, causing their expressions to change drastically. In 1 year, the monster plane will collapse. Lin You froze on the spot, his heart full of shock and horror. He had thought that the seal would be broken sooner or later, but he did not expect it to be so soon. 1 year, the terrifying monster will break free from the seal and reappear in the world. That is to say, he now only has 1 year to improve his strength. Actually, you don't have to worry too much. As if he knew what they were thinking, Emperor Xinyao said immediately, 1 year is enough for us to make a lot of preparations. Increasing our strength as much as possible and reducing the power of the Realm Alliance are what we should do most now. But in order not to cause panic, you'd better not spread this news casually for the time being. Do you understand? Emperor Xinyao gave the final instruction, his voice becoming much more serious. When Lin You and others heard this, their expressions suddenly turned serious. Clear, a response echoed from their mouths. Well, let's all go back first. Emperor Xinyao nodded with satisfaction, then waved his hand towards them, signaling them to leave. That's all. A brief meeting ended here. The kings were so preoccupied that they had no intention of chatting, and they all rushed back to their respective principalities. Lin You couldn't help but feel a little more urgent in his heart, and hurried back to the territory by cross-border teleportation. In this battle, he successfully obtained the 6th fragment of the Godhead. There are only 4 yuan left to reach the 11th level. From a principality to a kingdom, the 4 fragments of the Godhead are more or less. As long as he is well prepared, he still has a good chance of getting it together with his current strength. Therefore, his next goal is to strengthen his own and royal attributes to nearly full value. When the time comes, including him and 10, with full attribute combat power, it will be no problem to kill those 10th level lords with 1 or 2 Godhead fragments. Think about it. He calmed down and took a look at the development of the original universe. After this period of reproduction, the number of fruits of faith on the world tree has increased to about 280, including the output of the principality and the gains from killing lord monsters. When going out, the number should exceed 300. In other words, he also has royal troops that can increase their average attributes by at least 300 points every day, which is not too slow after all. In that case, let's continue hunting the Lord Monster tomorrow. Looking at the vast universe in front of him, Lin You thought silently. With 5 fragments of his Godhead before, he could easily kill Lord Monsters below D level. Now with 6 fragments of his Godhead, his average attributes have increased by 5 to 6,000, reaching 120,000 without bursting. It's time to try to hunt more advanced Lord Monsters. After all, the more advanced the Lord Monster is, the more rule fragments it will drop after death. If you can kill SSS level monsters, it will cost you 10 rule fragments each, which is much faster than low-level Lord Monsters. After making up his mind, Lin You exited the original universe, and quickly came to the World Tree. After this period of research, he has researched all the important 10th order mutant embryos. It just so happened that the tens of billions of mana gained from killing the Elemental Lord today, coupled with the tens of billions saved from the recent principality taxes and killing monsters, were completely enough to replace the original treacherous troops with augmented troops and 4-leaf clover troops. So he didn't do anything else and began to concentrate on mutating troops in the territory. This time, his mutation strategy has changed. The ancient trees, cactus and nut soldiers in the front row were all replaced by 4-leaf clover mutant soldiers, which inherited the physical protection skills and increased their physical fitness by 40%. The remote output units in the back row inherit spiritual protection and increase their spiritual energy by 40%. The remaining healing units such as flower essence, lantern grass, and sunflower are all reduced in capacity and are all replaced by multiplication units. Each one can support 4, and the healing capacity is full. Finally, there is his air force. The advanced forms of Yao Zulong and Yao Silong recruited 1,000 animals each to fill the shortcomings of lack of aerial combat. It is worth mentioning that, after the plant dragon branch reached the 10th level, they also learned very good skills. Name, Jade Dragon King, Rare, Race Plant, Level 10, Strength, 47,250, plus 33,075, Physique, 44,500, plus 38,270, Agility, 46,000, plus 32,200, Spirit 42,000, plus 29,400, Skills, Quick Shadow, Super Regeneration, Dragon Power, Death Breath, Explode the power of nature, spit out death breath full of destructive energy in a straight line ahead, causing 120% spiritual damage to the enemy. Combo Skill, 2 dragons combined. Introduction, the Green Dragon Clan, that controls the power of life, together with the Emerald Dragon Mother, are known as the Guardians of the World Tree. Name, Jade Dragon Mother, Rare race plant level 10. Strength 43,500 plus 30,450. Physique 44,500 plus 38,270. Agility 46,000 plus 32,200. Spirit 46,000 plus 32,200. Skills: Quick Shadow, Super Regeneration, Flurry of Roses, Breath of Life, spits dragon's breath containing life energy in a straight line ahead, causing 50% of mental attribute healing to friends, and recovering 5 per second for the next 10 seconds. Percent Constitution. Combo skill: 2 dragons combined. Introduction: the Green Dragon Clan, that controls the power of life together with the Emerald Dragon King, are known as the Guardians of the World Tree. McGurn, are you in there? Underground in the royal city of the Dwarf Kingdom, Lin You shouted loudly as he moved forward. Walking in the underground tunnel, the sound of clanging hammering, and the sound of surging lava were constantly heard in my ears. There was even a wave of heat, hitting his face from time to time, forcing him to squint his eyes. As he walked around the corner, he saw McGann beating equipment next to the furnace. The God of War in his hand was swung with great force, and it hit the forging table with a bang. You came. Seeing Lin You come in, McGann was not surprised, and stopped and looked at him. What do you want from me? I want to ask you what kind of materials are needed to build a set of 10th level equipment that can switch between offense and defense. Lin You directly stated the purpose of this trip. After the last brief battle with the Infinite King, he deeply felt the weakness of the plant-based attack, and also realized that he still lacked an explosive attack method. The opponent didn't even activate the enhanced skills, and he was able to hit him hard with one blow at full blast, but he could only inflict minor injuries on the opponent, which was not painful. The attack characteristics of the plant type are continuous and strong endurance, but insufficient burst. It's okay when you encounter opponents who are weaker than you can crush them with their high attributes. But once you encounter someone stronger than yourself, this flaw will be infinitely magnified. So what if you have great staying power without explosive means? It is equivalent to having no means of victory, and can only be passively beaten, let alone consume the opponent through a war of attrition. And others are also found. After the 10th level lords control the power of space, the freezing deceleration effect of the Frost Spirit suit is very limited to them, greatly reducing the practicality of this set of equipment. So he wanted to find a breakthrough in the equipment, and see if there was any good solution. For example, the offensive and defensive conversion equipment he had seen before was very suitable for him. It's okay to switch between offense and defense, but the material requirements are very high. McGann pondered for a moment and said, "Can it be made?" Lin Yu's eyes lit up. "Materials are not a problem, as long as you tell me, I can collect them. In this case, then you go and collect the cores of rock monsters, the sternums of powerful beast monsters, and the energy cores of spiritual monsters, and you need 3 of each, preferably lord level. So it should be enough to create a 3-piece suit," McGann said, stroking the beard on his chin. "That much?" Lin You asked in surprise. The material requirements are indeed ridiculously high. A total of 9 materials are required, and the type of monster must also be specified. With the current scarcity of 10th level monsters, it would probably take a lot of effort to collect them all. However, considering that he might encounter various powerful enemies in the future, he still nodded and agreed. "Okay, I will collect the materials right now and come back to you." Then, after saying that, he hurried outside the forging furnace. "You are in such a hurry, why don't you stay and have a couple of drinks with me before leaving? Let's give it another day. There's been a lot going on lately. I'll make up for it when I'm done." Lin You waved his hand without looking back, and disappeared around the corner of the cave after a while. McGann curled his lips and shrugged, ignoring him, and continued to beat the equipment aside, as if forging was the life of their dwarves. Realm Battlefield. Inside the residence of the primitive world. After some preparations, Lin You came here with an army of newly recruited soldiers, and hurried towards the direction of the monster plane. It has been 1 day since yesterday's camp war. At this time, on the battlefield, many lords from all walks of life were still working tirelessly, calling friends, and running in all directions. "I don't know what happened to Yanlai and the others." Lin You thought silently as he looked at the crowd below while flying. "Recently, he has been busy developing the principality and improving his strength. It feels like time flies by so fast. It seems that more than 3 months have passed since the last time he said goodbye to Yanlai, Situjian, Ji Yunshuang and the others. 3 months may have been nothing in the past, but the realm war during this period has made many people successful and greatly increased their upgrade speed. In the past, precious resources that could only be obtained in the battlefield of the world can now be redeemed by killing enemies. It seems that with the abilities of Yanlai, and the 3 of them, they should soon be preparing for the road to sainthood, especially Ji Yunshuang. With the support of the king's father, it is estimated that one of them will be the first to reach the 10th level. By then, the 12th principality will appear under their Xinyao Empire. This was completely unthinkable before the war, but everything has pros and cons. The Realm War gave them unprecedented opportunities for development, but it also brought huge hidden dangers. That is the collapse of the monster plane. Once the terrifying monster sealed under the monster plane is released, the entire world will suffer, and even all living beings will be devastated. Therefore, in this year, he must improve his strength as much as possible, at least to the point where he can protect himself. After thinking about it, he didn't stop anymore, teleported and disappeared in place, and rushed towards the monster plane. According to McGurn, building offensive and defensive conversion equipment requires core materials from 3 types of monsters: rock, beast, and spirit. The fastest way to find these 3 kinds of monsters is to go near the 72 demons of the same type. If he remembers correctly, the disaster turtle, ranked 62nd, is a defense-type monster. It seems that there should be many 10th level, or even 11th level defensive lord monsters around it. 62. Lin You murmured to himself, looking at the sky-high light pillars that spread all over the monster plane, and finally locked on one of the thick light pillars that exuded an earthy color. Yes, he dodged and rushed directly towards the beam of light. Ranked 62, he has begun to approach the inner area of the monster plane. The probability of encountering high-level lords and high-level monsters will definitely increase greatly, and there is even the possibility of encountering 11th level monsters. Lin You didn't dare to be careless, and basically kept all his senses on while he was on the road. Once you sense danger, you can flee immediately to ensure your own safety. In this way, we are vigilant and moving forward soon. He arrived at a place less than 5,000 kilometers away from the disaster turtle ancestors' territory. Looking around, the surrounding terrain has turned into mountains made of giant rocks. A large number of rock monsters of various shapes gather and wander here, and they are all defensive. Lin You was pleasantly surprised, but immediately, he realized something was wrong, because not far away in the sky, a large number of figures were gathering at this time, divided into 2 groups of people, facing each other from a distance, almost all over the entire periphery. Astonishingly, they are the 10th level lords of both camps. Even at the front of both teams, there were still several terrifying figures standing, as if the entire space was integrated with them. 11th level lord. Lin Yu's expression changed, and he immediately stopped walking forward, watching from a distance, extremely curious in his heart. What is it that can attract so many high-level lords, even the 11th level, which is usually extremely rare? Boom! Suddenly, a shocking loud noise sounded deep in the mountains. At the same time, there was also a dull roar that resounded throughout the world, causing the entire air to shake violently. Lin You couldn't help but look at the beam of light thousands of kilometers away. Vaguely, it seemed that many figures were fighting madly, and even the space around the light pillar collapsed. Could it be that the Emperor level is fighting? Or are the top leaders of the Realm Alliance attacking the seal guarded by the disaster turtle ancestor? Just thinking about it, the terrifying power of the collision turned into air waves and swept towards the surroundings. Then in a burst of rumbling footsteps, countless rock monsters ran out from the depths of the battle. 10th level leaders and lord monsters abounded. There was even an 11th level giant snapping turtle with an extremely terrifying aura. Lin You was shocked. I finally understood why these lords were waiting outside. Before he could react, loud shouts were heard. Do it! Hold them off! Suddenly, all the lords fell to the ground, summoned troops and rushed towards the lord monsters, and the teams from both camps collided fiercely. The 11th level lords rushed directly towards the giant snapping turtle, and fought in the air. In an instant, the space collapsed and turbulence surged. No 10th level lord dared to approach easily. Seeing such a fierce scene, Lin You immediately came to his senses. He glanced around the field and stared directly at a D-level lord rock armored dragon in the corner. The reason why I focused on that one was because there was only one 10th level beast type lord from the Realm Alliance nearby, and he didn't seem to be very strong. He didn't seem to have more than 3 godhead fragments. Come on, let's go there. After saying something to Ling Shi beside him, he appeared behind the man in a flash. The sword at his waist was filled with the power of space and he stabbed out towards the other person. The expression of the beast lord, who was cleaning up the monsters around him, changed drastically. He teleported away through space almost reflexively, and appeared 100 meters away. You actually escaped. Lin You was surprised. From the other party, he only felt the existence of 2 fragments of Godhead, but his aura was much stronger than the elemental lord he met before. He was obviously a king who had been upgraded to the 10th level for a long time, and his attributes had been strengthened to a very high level. Seeing the opponent's troops surrounding him, he didn't hold back anymore. With a wave of his hand, An army of tens of thousands of plants appeared and faced the army of beasts in front of him. Beast run. The Beast Lord was obviously a veteran on the battlefield, and without any panic, he shouted directly at the beast army. Roar! The beasts roared one after another, and all the beast soldiers were covered with a layer of faint red. Their speed suddenly accelerated, and they turned into afterimages and flew towards Lin Yu's ancient tree army. The sharp claws cut through the air with a tearing sound, tearing open unfathomable wounds on the ancient tree soldiers. It actually broke through the ancient tree's defense. Lin Yu's eyes narrowed slightly. The racial talent of the beast type, the attack has a tearing effect, and ignores some defenses. It should not be underestimated. Just in time, the Lord-level rock-armored dragon in the distance also stared at them, and rushed over with an angry roar. Originally, Lin You wanted to launch an attack on the Beast Lord, but the appearance of the Lord-level rock dragon disrupted his pace. King Tang, Cannon, you lead the team and King Gong to block it. Without thinking much, he immediately gave orders to the two royal families around him. Ivi's huge size and cannons, penetrating ability are most effective against this giant defensive monster. One can restrict movement, and the other can effectively cause damage. The Mushroom Demon King and Soul Chasing, who are good at group battles, are responsible for cleaning up the ordinary monsters that rush over. Then under Qing Gang's savage roar, all the plants raised their momentum and blocked all the monsters' back attack. Seeing that he was being dragged down by the monster, the Beast Lord immediately seized the opportunity and issued orders to the dragon soldiers in the air. In an instant, thousands of huge dragons passed by, opened their mouths and suddenly sprayed a path of flames towards Lin You, turning everything they went into a sea of fire. Air raid. Lin You raised his eyebrows, and 2,000 newly recruited emerald green dragons also whizzed past his head, blowing a large gust of wind. Roar. The dragon's roar echoed, and streams of death breath spurted out, turning into destructive energy and heading towards the opposite Air Force team. At the same time, the skill of Kongming Guanyao floating in the air exploded, and together with the breath of death, it enveloped all the dragons on the opposite side. Ouch! The giant dragon that was hit screamed and was directly knocked to the ground by the double attack, and its corpses fell like rain. This is not a one-time enemy at all, and all the damage caused by the radiant skill is converted into healing power to heal the units burned by the flames, allowing their wounds to slowly recover. How come? The Beast Lord opposite was shocked, and finally felt Lin Yu's power. Without any hesitation, he immediately recalled his troops and ran away. Want to escape? Lin Yu's face darkened, and he teleported above the Beast Lord. The void space was activated, completely sealing off the surrounding space. At the same time, Lingxi followed closely, and the violet staff in his hand exploded with natural power. The majesty of the king descended and suppressed all monsters and beasts within 1 kilometer. But what Lin You didn't expect was, at this time, the Beast Lord suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood, and a male lion figure exuding the aura of the king appeared on his body, temporarily blocking the majestic suppression of the king. Then the shadow changed and turned into a vigorous cheetah, blessing him, causing his speed to rise suddenly, rushing out of the void space, and teleporting away. The action was decisive, without any sloppiness, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Beast blessing. Lin You frowned and looked at the direction in which the other party disappeared. He could no longer sense any aura from the other party. He probably used some method to conceal his aura. It seems, even a 10th level lord with only 2 fragments of his godhead cannot be suppressed so easily. After all, attribute suppression does not mean that there is no ability to resist. People who can rise to this level basically have 1 or 2 life-saving escape methods, especially for this Beast Lord. His reaction was so quick that he had obviously been in the world for many years, which made him feel ashamed. Forget it. Let's get rid of these monsters first. Instead of pursuing the opponent, Lin You teleported back to the team, and began to lead the plant army to clean up the monsters surrounding the Lord-level rock dragon that was entangled with the ivy. Much to his surprise, under the erosion of the bloody kingdom of ivy, Rock Dragon was not afraid at all. Its own recovery speed directly caught up with the damage caused by the bloody kingdom every second, and it fought back and forth with the vines of ivy. Second sister, can you do it? If not, let me swallow it in one gulp. Tun Tian on the side said with a loud voice and a weak mouth. Go away, you are such a broken flower. You are not afraid of breaking your teeth. King Tang cursed angrily and finally stopped holding back. The bloody stamen on her head suddenly touched the large bloody poisonous mist, making the poisonous mist around her body much thicker and doubling the damage caused by the bloody kingdom. With the help of the Banshee army, and the P army led by the cannon, they finally succeeded in breaking through the rock dragon's carapace. The rock dragon howled in pain, and an earthy yellow light appeared on its body, trying to resist the attack of the plant army. But at this time, the strength of Lin Yu's troops was no longer what it used to be. There is basically no pressure to deal with D-class Lord monsters. Under the siege of several royal families, he was bombarded by countless attacks in less than 3 minutes and fell to the ground unwillingly. Kill the 10th level Lord level monster, and obtain 100 million points of magic energy. The sound prompt sounded, and a stream of energy turned into a stream of light and flowed into Lin Yu's body, accelerating the reproduction rate of the original universe. Lin Yu discovered, after the number of fruits of faith crossed the threshold of 250 per day, the rate of improvement slowed down a lot, and it seemed that it had reached some kind of bottleneck. If we want to make another huge breakthrough, I'm afraid the level of civilization inside will have to reach a certain level. But he's not greedy either. After just a brief glance, he immediately came to the body of the rock dragon, and put away the 4 fallen rule fragments in an origin crystal. The origin crystal has little effect on lords above level 10, but it is extremely precious for people below the 9th level. I think Lin Yu had a hard time getting one piece, but he didn't expect that the 10th level monster would explode so easily. He finally understood why the 10th level lord had so many top quality resources as rewards for those below him. Sure enough, the level gap was still huge. Didn't think much about it. After putting the things away, he immediately cut open the body of the rock dragon and took out a rock crystal block shining with earthy yellow light. This should be the rock core that Magan was talking about. I happily put it away and prepared to leave here. Unexpectedly, as soon as he got up, he found a group of 10th level lords from the Realm Alliance quickly surrounding him, and his expression froze. Deal with him. Following the leader's middle-aged man's loud shout, more than a dozen 10th level lords directly erupted with the power of the rules, turning into powerful attacks towards Lin Yu. The power is so strong that they are all above 5 fragments of the Godhead, especially the leading man, who had 8 fragments of Godhead, was terrifying. No need to think about it. This is a team specially formed to hunt down lords of the same level. Although Lin Yu is very confident in his own strength, he is not arrogant enough to be able to compete with so many 10th level lords at once. Unless he has all the royal attributes enhanced to full value. Withdraw. Without any hesitation, he immediately recalled the troops. At the same time, the forest sage's peaceful domain was activated to block attacks from all directions, and then the power of rules was fully activated, forcibly breaking through the unstable space and teleporting to appear dozens of kilometers away. You actually blocked it. The middle-aged man looked at the place where Lin Yu disappeared in surprise. What skills can actually block the joint attacks of so many of them at once and still remain unscathed? Do you want to chase? Another person asked, wanting to continue the chase. No need. That guy is not weak. Chasing him is just a waste of time, and he will find other people who are alone. The man stretched out his hand to stop them. He raised his head and took a deep look at the direction Lin Yu teleported away. He did not stay for long and continued to look for prey elsewhere. Didn't you come after me? Feeling that there was no other breath approaching from behind, Lin Yu immediately stopped with a surprised and solemn expression. It was just as the Emperor said. The current monster plane is much more dangerous than before. If you are not careful, you will be besieged by the opposite lord. It seems that I have to be more careful in the future. After thinking about it, he no longer stayed in the original area and continued to look for other rock lord monsters in other directions. Good luck. The battle between the emperors deep in the plain lasted for more than 2 hours before it ended. In these 2 hours, Lin Yu killed 2D level, 1 C level and 1 F level lord monsters, and obtained a total of 4 rock cores, 1 more than Magan said. Even the rule fragments earned 15 yuan, and the harvest was much better than expected. You guys go ahead and keep a lookout all around, and I'll go take care of the bodies. Lin Yu said something to the royal family around him, then walked to the corpse of the lord monster, and prepared to take out the rock core from its body. Boom! But at this moment, a terrifying loud noise came. Another beam of light thousands of kilometers away suddenly shook violently, and erupted in a dazzling light. Then in Lin Yu's shocked eyes, the beam of light that shot straight into the sky quickly dimmed and gradually disappeared between heaven and earth. Formation Eye. One of the formation eyes guarded by the 72 demons. It was actually breached, and it was the 72nd one he was most familiar with, the formation guarded by the Spider Mother. So what happened? At this moment, Lin Yu was really shocked. He quickly took out the rock core, stood up, recalled his troops, and rushed towards the location of the light pillar. At the same time, the lords from all directions in the monster plane also saw this scene, which immediately caused a huge uproar, and everyone gathered from all directions. Sure enough, the power of the 72 demons has begun to decline. In the endless void, an emperor who was guarding the base camp of the Realm Alliance opened his eyes, and a vast brilliant light erupted. The powerful strength of the 72 demons is a well-known thing, but few people know that their power is actually closely related to the monster plane. Now that the monster plane is withering away, The power of the 72 demons has also been affected. Although still powerful, it is no longer as intimidating as before. And just when everyone was rushing towards the direction of the light pillar, a long series of prompts sounded over the entire Wanji continent without any warning. Lords, please note that due to unknown reasons, the integration of the 10,000 realms continent is accelerating. The fusion progress is achieved, and one of the 3 hidden realms, the living realm, is opened. The living world is the place where all those who cannot become lords are accommodated, and it controls the balance of life in all worlds. If you pass the test, you can enter the gate of the living world and reach the living world. By obtaining the heart of the realm, you can gain the power to control some of the rules of the realm, transcending the rules. Quiet. The entire Wanji continent was silent. All the lords who were on their way or fighting stopped their movements and looked at the sky in shock, especially Yan Lai, who was in the territory and was about to go to the battlefield in the realm. His eyes widened and he froze in place. A place of refuge for all those who cannot become lords. Just a dozen words, but they seemed to have some kind of magic power, making his burly body begin to tremble violently. One of the 3 realms of life, death and reincarnation. It actually turned on at this time. The sudden reminder made Lin You pause. Regarding these 3 mysterious realms of life and death, he had only heard a few words from other lords. It is said that since tens of thousands of years ago, the entrances to these 3 realms have been completely sealed, and even the emperor cannot enter. The 2 most powerful realms in the entire world, Teichu realm and Origin realm, have been responsible for guarding the entrances to the 2 realms of life and death, so they are unable to participate in the battle between realms. I thought these 3 realms would remain silent like this, but I didn't expect that today it would be opened again due to the integration of the 10,000 realms continent. Although it was only one of the living worlds, he was extremely shocked by the important information mentioned on the prompt. A shelter for all those who cannot become lords. It means that when the world collapsed and everyone was forcibly transported, were the elderly, children, and those with insufficient mental and physical abilities transported to the living world. If this was the case, then he finally understood why many people could not find their relatives. He didn't die in Novice Village, but was taken into collective custody to accommodate those who do not meet the standards of the entire world. How big should the scope of this living world be? Lin You didn't dare to imagine, and he didn't have the heart to imagine. Not that he had any relatives to look for, on the contrary. Even before he came to this world, he had always been alone. He had no concept of family members since he could remember, not to mention friends. He is a social beast who works 996 a day and is exhausted every day. He has no time to go out and make friends. Even if he knows a few, he can be called close friends. It sounds better to be alone, but to put it worse, I am alone. What worries him the most? On the contrary, it is the impact of the opening of the living world on the situation of all worlds. If the Realm Alliance controls the entrance to the living world and uses it to blackmail their lords, it may lead to very serious consequences. After all, the prompt mentions a sentence at the end. By obtaining the heart of the realm, you can gain the power to control some of the rules of the realm, transcending the rules. Lin You didn't know what the heart of the realm was, but he is very clear about obtaining the power to control some of the rules of the world. This is definitely something that all lords and even emperors cannot refuse. This is also what they have been pursuing. Beyond the rules, that means no longer being bound by the rules of this world. This alone is enough to drive countless lords crazy. Brothers, did I hear correctly? Those who have not become lords are all in the living world. No, you heard it right. It's really like this. So, some people may not have died, but were just teleported there. Great, I must go there and have a look. Kwa, wait for me. The lords were talking in various channels, all discussing the topic of the opening of the living world. Some lords who have been looking for their relatives have rekindled their hopes, and are frantically asking for news about the living world. Stop talking about them. Even the emperors from both sides who were fighting in the monster plane stopped and gave up the fight temporarily. And right now, a corner of the Wanji continent, in an isolated realm, a golden beam of light soared into the sky, instantly dispersing the dark clouds above and sinking straight into the void. Immediately afterwards, following a violent vibration, a ladder to the sky built from layers of platforms slowly rose up and appeared at the edge of the realm, extending from the ground to a dreamlike translucent barrier at the edge of the continent. Vaguely, you can still feel the rich breath of life spreading through the barrier. It's as if you can reach another world through that barrier. It's the direction of Teichu realm. The expressions of all the great emperors were stern. They looked at each other, and then disappeared directly into the void. The battles between realms and the rise and fall of all races are nothing compared to the power that transcends rules, except for a small number of emperors who did not compete for fame, wealth or power, who stayed to guard Almost all the emperors rushed towards Teichu realm at the same time. Dazzling rays of light also lit up in each realm, all converging in the direction of Teichu realm. Lords, please note that the road to the door to the living world has been opened. Lords of level 10 and above can build a teleport through the national management interface to lead to the trial place. Only by passing the test in the trial place can you officially enter the living world. Another series of prompts sounded, but this time it's not over the mainland, but in the minds of all the lords. The low-level lords were stunned for a moment, and then immediately exploded. Can we directly construct the teleportation so we can also go there? Hurry, hurry, Boss King, come back quickly, and build the teleportation array. Haha, I thought I had to reach a certain level of strength to get through, but now it's better. Don't be too happy, didn't you just tell me what test you need to pass? Anyway, let's go over and take a look at the situation. Lin Yu glanced at the Principality channel, and news poured out like a tide. He originally planned to go over and take a look, but without any further hesitation, he immediately left the monster plane, and rushed back to the territory. After returning to the territory, I quickly went to the world tree, clicked on the Principality interface and took a look, and sure enough, there was an additional teleportation construction option. It actually leads directly to Teichu realm. Constructing this teleport requires 1 billion mana and consumes 10 million mana every day. Do you want to continue? Depend on grab money. Lin Yu's face darkened instantly. He didn't expect it to be such a money-burning thing. Fortunately, his daily revenue in the Principality now exceeds 100 million mana, otherwise he would have suffered a loss. Seeing that the voices of the lords in the Principality were becoming more and more fierce, he did not hesitate anymore and directly chose to build a teleportation. The next second, a stream of light soared into the sky from his territory, swept towards the light above the primitive continent that was connected to the Teichu realm, and merged into it. Lords, please note that the teleportation to the trial site was successfully constructed. You can select the transfer coordinates through the transfer gate function and transfer. It's open. The teleport is open. It's ready so soon. Yes, long live the king. Hearing the prompt sound, Shenyu Princess was filled with joy. Immediately, some brave people walked into the portal and tried to teleport through. Lin Yu did not hesitate and also entered the portal under the world tree. Please select the transfer coordinates. The current coordinates include boundary battlefield and trial ground. The place of trial. Aha! The voice fell. The light lit up, and Lin Yu disappeared instantly at the same time. Rays of light also lit up in various directions on the continent, and people began to teleport to the trial site. But what Lin Yu didn't expect was, this time the teleportation is different from the past. You can actually see the scene outside the teleportation channel. When he crossed the space and swept towards the edge of the continent, he was shocked by the scene in front of him, because at this time, on the edge of the Wanji continent, there was actually a huge independent realm wrapped in a light curtain, and there is only a small passage entrance connecting this realm. It's like trying to break free from the 10,000 realms continent. Is this the strongest realm in the legend, Teichu realm? Without waiting for him to think too much, the power of space had already taken him into Teichu realm. Immediately afterwards, an extremely rich breath of life rushed towards his face, and he could clearly feel it even through the space passage. And the picture in front of him also changed, turning into a vast land with lush greenery, and islands floating in the sky, like a fairyland on earth. Then the scene in front of him was like a trance again, accompanied by a strong feeling of weightlessness. When Lin Yu stood still again, he had arrived at the deepest part of Teichu realm, a stretch of green grassland stretching thousands of miles. Taking a closer look, the entire grassland was actually enveloped by a huge formation connecting heaven and earth. One after another, the teleportation light lit up. Lords from all walks of life sent their own realms to teleport over, looking around with blank expressions. Is this the place of trial, leading to the world of life? Even the magic circle has been built. So fast. It's such a rich breath of life. I feel like I'm almost catching up with those healing skills. Is it because it's close to the living world? Look, it's the emperors. An exclamation suddenly sounded among the crowd, and the lord who had just teleported couldn't help but look into the distance. Sure enough, they saw that the emperors had arrived one step ahead of them, and they were dividing into two groups and standing in the air, looking at the hundreds of stalwart figures on the opposite side from a distance. Emperor level. Lin Yu was shocked and looked at the hundreds of figures opposite. They were all emperors he had never seen before. Could it be the great emperor in Teichu realm? There are actually hundreds of great emperors in Teichu realm. This is not the point. After all, he has heard about the strength of Teichu realm for a long time. What shocked him the most was an ordinary old man with a white beard, at the front of the hundreds of great emperors. Although he looks like just an ordinary old man, his whole person seems to be integrated with heaven and earth. He is heaven and earth, and heaven and earth are him. One more glance and it feels like your soul is being sucked away. So strong. Lin You felt a turmoil in his heart, and couldn't help but take a half step back. He felt that the old man was even several times more terrifying than the Dragon King. In this world, there are actually such powerful people. Could it be that he has already crossed the 12th level? After thousands of years, this day has finally come. At this moment, the old man spoke leisurely. The old voice seemed to have some kind of magic power, directly touching the hearts of everyone present, shaking them back to their senses. Yes, it has been 10,000 years. The gate of life has opened again. You have guarded the entrance for so long, so there should be no reason to stop us anymore. Right, the Dragon King from the anti-alliance side was the first to say. This was the first time that Lin Yu heard the emperors talking about secrets from thousands of years ago, and he immediately concentrated on listening carefully. Do you really want to pursue the seed of the world? The old man raised his head and glanced at the Dragon King. With just one glance, the faces of all the great emperors changed slightly, and their breaths became restless. Only the Dragon Emperor and several powerful emperors were calm, and looked at him calmly. You should know that the road leading there is about to appear. If you want to pass it 100%, only the seed of the world can do it. The road leading there. Hearing the Dragon King's words, Lin Yu couldn't help but wonder, what did this mean? Where is that place? Unfortunately, the two did not stay on this topic. After a moment of silence, the old man said, for these 10,000 years, our Teichu realm has been responsible for guarding the Xingmen, just to prevent others from disturbing the order of that realm. Now that the door to life has been opened, I will naturally not stop you anymore, but the rules of the living world are different from those outside. Entering it is not something that only strong people can do. Also, this is the territory of the Teichu realm. No matter how you fight and kill each other, don't disturb the tranquility of this realm. Otherwise, don't blame me for taking action myself. After saying that, a vast and boundless energy burst out from his body, and spread across the entire world in an instant. The expressions of the great emperors from all walks of life changed, and they couldn't help but retreat, their eyes filled with horror. They had no doubts about the old man's words, because the other party does have the strength to kill one person among the great emperors, from all walks of life. Fortunately, the old man was merely intimidating. Seeing that no one had any objections, he shuttled through space with the hundreds of great emperors behind him, and disappeared in a flash at the same time. The clouds and mist behind him dissipated, revealing a ladder to the sky standing at the edge of the realm, and the illusory barrier connected to the top of the ladder. That's the entrance to the living world. The great emperors from all walks of life looked happy, and immediately some people turned into streams of light and rushed towards the ladder. But the next second, when the great emperor entered the range of the ladder, his expression suddenly changed, and he actually fell directly from the sky. Boom! There was a loud noise, and a huge crater was opened on the plain. With his powerful body, the emperor was not harmed, but all the lords were frightened. Not even the emperor can fly in the air. What is the origin of this ladder? Lin Yu looked at the ladder in shock. The entire ladder is ridiculously high, with a total of 1,000 floors. It is also ridiculously wide, and each floor is a huge platform, divided into 7 areas, corresponding to each level. It extends all the way to the void of lightning and thunder, tightly connected to the illusory barrier. With his current eyesight, he couldn't even see the situation at the top clearly. Be careful, the space above is blocked. The great emperor stood up, patted the dust, and reminded outside with a solemn expression. The space is blocked. Doesn't that mean there's no way to fly and teleport in the air? The lords on the periphery were in an uproar, and even the emperor's expressions changed slightly, and they immediately landed on the ground, and stepped into the range of the ladder to investigate. Then, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the Dragon King took the lead in ascending the first level of stairs, then frowned, then ascended to the second level of stairs, and then the third level. The pressure from heaven and earth will become stronger with each step you go up. Remember to be careful when you go up. This was said to the other great emperors, and also to the low-ranking lords outside. Only then did the lords finally understand the meaning of the trial. It turns out that they are allowed to climb this ladder. Only by climbing this ladder can you be qualified to enter the living world. Unexpectedly, there was such a trial before entering the living world, which immediately made those lords who wanted to go in to find their relatives couldn't help but worry. There are 1,000 stairs, and the pressure on each level will increase. Can anyone really pass the test? I just want to go in and find my family. Why do I need to do this kind of trial? Don't worry yet. What if the test is not about strength? Indeed, it's not said to be a test of strength. Anyway, let's go up there and give it a try first. Let's go up and take a look first. The trial of the ladder did not extinguish the determination of the lords to enter the living world. After the discussion, many people immediately walked into the area of their own level and began to climb the ladder. The remaining people chose to wait and see from the outside for the time being. As time went by, more and more lords were transferred, and they were spread in every corner of the grassland boundary. They were gradually divided into two camps, the Boundary Alliance and the Anti-Alliance, gathering on the left and right sides respectively. The air was full of gunpowder, but no one took action at this time. But no one dares to take it lightly, because there is no warning on the ladder not to attack others. They don't want to be attacked by the opponent halfway up the ladder, causing all their previous efforts to be wasted. Especially careful people also find it. When the stairs were halfway across, the surrounding environment began to become more and more severe, with attacks such as ice, fire, thunder and lightning gradually appearing. Even in the second half of the journey, space cracks will appear, which looks extremely unstable. Lin You, I finally found you. Just as Lin Yu was observing the situation on the ladder, a familiar shout suddenly sounded from the crowd behind him. He turned around and saw Situ Jian walking through the crowd towards him. So it's you. Where's Yanlai? Why aren't you with me? Lin Yu asked in surprise. Don't mention it. As soon as that guy came over, he ran directly to the top and said that he must enter the living world today. Situ Jian pointed in the direction of the ladder and said helplessly, have you gone up already? Lin Yu knew that Yanlai had been looking for his sister. It is also clear that this is the reason why Yanlai has been working so hard to become stronger. I just hope that guy won't be too impulsive. After all, the situation is still unclear and no one can tell what he will encounter up there. That guy is just like that. No matter how much you try to persuade him, it's useless. I should go up there and save him from having to worry about any trouble he might get into. Okay, go quickly, don't let him do something stupid. Then I'll leave first. After saying that, Situ Jian walked directly into the 9th level area of the ladder and chased after Yanlai. After watching him leave, Lin Yu was no longer idle and began to make preparations underneath. Look, someone has climbed to the 100th floor. Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out from the crowd. Lin Yu was stunned and couldn't help but look at Evrion's gaze. To his great surprise, the first person to reach the 100th floor was not the great emperor, nor a lord of 10th level or above, but an unknown 9th level lord. What happened? Is it true, as those lords just said, that the pressure on the ladder does not depend on the strength? In confusion, he couldn't help but look in other directions, and found that several 10th level lords were already sweating on their foreheads when they approached the 100th floor, looking like they were struggling. This obviously has nothing to do with strength, but varies from person to person. What Lin Yu didn't expect was even more. Not long after the 9th level lord climbed to the 100th floor, the emperors and lords of various levels began to climb to the 100th floor one after another, but no one continued to climb, but all rested on the spot. What's going on? Why did they all stop? Will there be any changes after the 100th floor? No, something seems to have appeared. An exclamation suddenly sounded from the crowd below, interrupting Evrion's discussion. On the 100-story platform, dazzling light suddenly lit up, and various items wrapped in light appeared out of thin air. 6th level military tokens, 7th level military secret treasures, 8th level territorial sacred objects, 9th level origin crystals, and 10th level rule fragments. And not just one, but 10. At this time, the crowd was completely excited. I didn't expect that there would be treasures on the ladder. This is only the 100th floor. What about higher levels? Suddenly, all the lords who were watching immediately swarmed towards the ladder, and began to join the climbing army, making the entire ladder suddenly become extremely crowded. And at this time, those who were the first to reach the 100th floor also began to compete for the treasures. They fought fiercely on the platform, and loud noises were heard continuously. Lin Yu, who followed the crowd to the bottom of the ladder, narrowed his eyes and looked at the fighting lords above. If he guessed correctly, in addition to providing rewards to the lords, those treasures may also serve to guide them in melee fighting, and consume their physical strength. That is to say, once you are greedy for profit and compete for those treasures, you will fall into the trap of the ladder trial. In the end, you will only waste a lot of energy and miss the opportunity to climb the ladder. The trial at the gate of life is indeed not as simple as imagined. Lin Yu didn't dare to be careless, and immediately followed the crowd to the foot of the ladder, and stepped up to the first step of the tower boom. There was a roar, and the moment his feet landed on the platform, overwhelming pressure swept towards him, making his steps sink. Lin Yu tried it. In this area, it turned out that he couldn't use the power of space or summon troops. He could only use the most basic power of rules to activate skills. Good. At least it's not that all methods can't be used. I didn't stay long. I just had a brief experience, and then continued to move towards higher levels. As the level continued to rise, the pressure gradually increased, and he finally felt something abnormal. There seemed to be an invisible force that was constantly eroding his heart. Although it was very weak at the beginning, it gradually became stronger, giving him a faint urge to kill. and the pressure around him also became much stronger. When he calms down, this pressure will weaken. I see. Lin You suddenly showed a surprised expression. This latter trial is not a test of a person's strength, but a test of a person's murderous intention. The more serious the murderous intention, the stronger the pressure will be. No wonder even those 10th level lords had a hard time climbing up. Among all the lords present, which one didn't have a lot of blood on his hands? There are only a few people who can keep their original intention unaffected. Certainly, under the same conditions, the stronger the force, the stronger the pressure it can resist. So your own strength still plays a role. Forget it. Let's go up first, and then talk. Lin You didn't know how many floors he could climb. Just try to stay calm and keep distance from other 10th level lords to avoid conflicts that consume your energy soon. He joined the large army and came to the 100th floor. The pressure of the first 100 levels was not too strong, only about twice as strong as at the beginning. As long as they are not murderous and extremely murderous, they can basically climb up. At this time, many lords from all walks of life have gathered on the platform. They have already snatched up all the 10 rule fragments and are staying in place to rest and recover. They are not in a hurry to continue climbing. Lin You didn't stop, took a deep breath and continued walking towards the 101st floor. However, what he never expected was, when he climbed up the 101st floor of the tower with 1 foot, a pressure far greater than before suddenly fell, forcing him to almost kneel on the ground. What a strong pressure. Lin You stepped heavily on the 101st floor platform, his eyes full of shock. The pressure after crossing the 100th floor actually doubled compared to the 100th floor. A difference of 1 level makes a world of difference. Doesn't that mean that every time you pass 100 levels, the pressure will increase exponentially? No wonder those people were not in a hurry to climb. They obviously felt this change and were ready to gather strength to recover before continuing to climb. However, could things really be that simple? Of course not. Just when most people climbed to the 100th floor and stayed on the platform to recover, a large ray of light suddenly lit up on the platform on the 200th floor, and dazzling things began to appear, especially at the 10th level. 20 pieces of rule fragments appeared directly, floating quietly on the platform. The lords from all walks of life who were still recovering were all shocked. Fragments of rules. There is something even on the 200th floor, and the quantity has doubled. Quick, let's go up quickly. Although 20 rule fragments are not difficult to obtain for a 10th level lord, they are still a large amount of money, and most importantly, if this pattern continues, at the 300, 400 or even 500 levels, the number of rule fragments will probably increase accordingly. In other words, the sooner you get to the top, the more benefits you will get. Without any hesitation, the lords of all levels hurriedly stood up and began to climb towards the 200th floor. Some lords even unleashed all their strength and rushed all the way to the top despite the pressure, causing countless people to exclaim and chase after them. In the blink of an eye, driven by interests, all the lords became confused and climbed up the stairs at a faster pace. In less than a moment, a strong and sturdy lord in the 9th level area crossed the 150th floor and headed straight for the 200th floor. The body was shrouded in golden light, and it was obvious that he had used explosive methods to grab the treasures above as soon as possible. But what everyone expected was, just when the man was about to reach the 200th floor, he suddenly screamed, as if he had been hit hard. He vomited blood and flew backwards. He fell heavily back to the platform below, and rolled dozens of meters before barely stopping. The pool of blood on the platform was shocking, causing an uproar among the other lords below. What a strong pressure. It knocked people down in one go. Be careful, don't rush too fast. The pressure from behind is getting stronger and stronger. The pressure after the 100th floor is twice as strong as before. This is only over 100 floors. The lords were horrified, and the last trace of contempt for the trial was gone. They immediately slowed down and adjusted their breath, fearing that they would follow in the footsteps of the 9th level lord. But even so, there were still a small number of people who began to sweat profusely, tremble, and seemed to be unable to support themselves, and even their pace slowed down a lot. In contrast, a small number of people seemed not to be affected much, and climbed up the stairs one after another very easily, heading towards the 200th floor. Lin You was in the middle of the 10th level climbing team, taking his time. He is not the kind of person who loves killing, but he cannot be as pure and kind as the Virgin Mary. Therefore, the pressure I received can only be said to be neither too strong nor too weak. The best way is to save energy as much as possible and not participate in the battle, so that you can have a chance to hit higher levels. Anyway, His original universe now produces more than 200 rule fragments a day, so there is no need to compete with other lords and waste his energy. As the number of climbing levels gradually increased, some people gradually became unable to hold on and retreated from the ladder. As for those lords who were the first to reach the 200th floor, another round of competition for treasures began. Get away! Hearing an angry roar, a lord broke through the siege of two enemies and snatched the treasure. However, in the next second, more lords surrounded him, and he was seriously injured in the blink of an eye. He was knocked off the platform by the strong pressure. The entire platform was in chaos. Lords were being blown down one after another, and people were rushing onto the platform. The scene looked extremely spectacular. Lin You and some of the lords did not participate in the battle, and went around from one side and continued upward. And at this time, many people have already crossed the 200th floor, with no intention of stopping. A group of 10th level lords have even climbed above the 250th floor, and are heading towards the 300th floor. It's so fast, how did they do it? A 10th level lord next to Lin You said in shock, looking at the figure who was far away. I feel like it's a bit difficult to reach the 200th floor. Don't they all need a rest? I recognize a few people. They seem to be the top kings in the 10 major realms and those large realms. They all have at least 8 fragments of the Godhead. 8 fragments of Godhead. It seems they are rushing to the top. Although the main test of the ladder is not strength, strong strength still has advantages in this aspect. At least the ability to resist pressure will be much stronger, and the early climbing speed will be absolutely nothing. Lin Yu was among the crowd. He looked at the figures far ahead in surprise and found that the King Wuliang and King Daqing, who had fought before, were among them. As expected, he is worthy of being a strong man with 9 fragments of Godhead. Seeing that those people had left them far away, he did not stop any longer and stepped on the 201st floor stairs with one foot. Boom! As soon as the soles of his feet landed, the overwhelming pressure suddenly hit him, which was twice as much as what it was on the 200th floor. When some of the kings who stepped forward saw this, they immediately shrank their feet back in shock. However, Lin Yu only paused for a moment before successfully stepping onto the platform and walking towards the next level of stairs. Just like this, they climbed up layer by layer until the leading troops reached the 300th floor, and finally a large light came on the platform. Just as Lin Yu guessed before, 30 rule fragments appeared. Some lords who could not withstand the temptation immediately left the team, rushed towards the rule fragments, and began to fight fiercely for them. But most of them remained rational and did not join the fight. Instead, he stayed at the edge of the platform for a short rest, and slowly restored the power of rules in his body. No way. The higher you get to the top, the stronger the pressure becomes. Many people have had to mobilize the power of rules to bless themselves in order to block the pressure from all directions. When Lin Yu got on the platform, there are no less than 110th level lords gathered on the 300th floor, and the number is still increasing. But they are not in a hurry, because after passing the 300th floor, it is equivalent to passing 1/3 of the ladder, and the pressure you have to face has increased exponentially. If you want to rest and regain your strength, you can only do it now, otherwise the consumption will be greater later. As a result, more and more lords gathered on the platform, but no one was in a hurry to continue upward. However, at this time, a reminder suddenly sounded in the minds of all the lords. Lords, please note that the number of people in the trial land has reached the requirement, and the first round of rewards will begin to refresh. As the sound fell, the entire ladder banged with a loud noise, and suddenly started to vibrate slightly. Then rays of light lit up, and the treasures that had been robbed on the first 3 levels were refreshed again, and appeared on the platform. Not only that, even in the middle of the ladder, on the platforms on the 400th and 500th floors, energy emerged and a dazzling light erupted. On the 400th floor, 40 rule fragments appeared, scattered everywhere. Immediately afterwards, in the shocked eyes of all the 10th level lords, the energy above the 500th floor gathered rapidly, and turned into a colorful crystal that constantly changed its form, floating quietly in the center of the platform. Fragments of Godhead. There are actually fragments of the Godhead. Hurry! All the 10th level lords were shocked and reacted immediately. They stood up and rushed towards the 500th floor without hesitation. Even Lin Yu, in the crowd, was extremely shocked. He didn't expect that a fragment of the Godhead would appear on the ladder, and it happened to appear halfway up the ladder. Even though he had no doubts he would not be able to withstand such temptation, so he stood up and turned into an afterimage, and flew towards the senior officials. At the same time, the 4-leaf clover protection and quick shadow skills are activated one after another to increase the speed to the extreme. Not to be outdone, the other lords added their skills, and roared as they crazily climbed up the stairs. To know, under such strong pressure, the consumption of the power of rules is very terrifying. Even for a lord with 9 fragments of his Godhead, the speed of consumption is noticeable to the naked eye, constantly flying by. Gradually, some people could no longer hold on and the speed slowed down, especially after crossing the 400 level threshold. Even those old kings with 8 or 9 fragments of their godhead sank and frowned. The pressure above level 400 is already 8 times that of the initial level. Even though they were very powerful, they all had to slow down. The speed competition turned into an endurance competition in an instant. As they climbed up step by step, Lin You followed closely behind them and climbed to the 400th floor. He finally felt the terrifying pressure coming from all directions, making him almost breathless. In terms of strengthening skills, the lords of each series are basically the same. After all, the skills of the arms are limited. The only difference is the blessing of attributes and racial talents. In a state where this unit cannot be summoned, the extra bonus of the humanoid type equipment, the full attribute bonus of the humanoid type, the physical recovery bonus of the plant type, and the enhancement of the magic effects of the angel type all show unique advantages, which can directly strengthen the Lord's strength. In addition, Lin You also has additional skills of the royal family. This is also his advantage. Seeing that the 500th floor platform was getting closer and closer, he finally stopped holding back, and his savage roar erupted directly, suddenly turning into an afterimage, and passing by the other kings, rushing straight towards the platform. No, stop him quickly. The other kings obviously did not expect that Lin You would suddenly come out and possess such a powerful explosive method. They immediately roared and surrounded him, trying to block his way. For a while, a large attack emerged, turning into a raging wave and heading towards Lin You. Some people accelerated their speed and rushed towards the platform. The Lord with 9 godhead fragments has more powerful skills than Lin You. Coupled with the higher basic attributes, the burst speed in a short period of time was a few minutes faster than him. In a blink of an eye, he rushed onto the platform and went straight to the fragments of the godhead. Lin You looked stern, and the turtle shield mirror wall and the war barrier opened together, blocking attacks from all around with a loud rumbling sound. Taking advantage of the inertia of the explosion, it also rushed out of the crowd and rushed towards the platform. "This piece of godhead is mine," a middle-aged man who was at the front shouted loudly. Wind blew under his feet, and his speed suddenly increased. Astonishingly, he is an elemental lord, who has enhanced his agility attributes to the extreme. Stop him quickly. Seeing this, the other lords turned their spearheads, gave up attacking Lin You, and chased after the man with an angry roar. For a while, various explosive methods appeared, and afterimages passed across the platform, chasing after the man. The majesty of the king. Lin You didn't hesitate and directly activated Ling's 10th level skill. In an instant, a powerful pressure broke out with him as the center, sweeping across the entire 1-kilometer area. The kings from all walks of life who were chasing fiercely ahead were instantly restrained by the dual pressure of the king's majesty and the ladder trial. What's going on? This pressure has suddenly become so much stronger. No, it's a skill effect. The expressions of the kings changed, finally feeling enveloped by the power of the rules. Just as they were shocked, Lin Yu's souls suddenly exploded, speeding past them and heading straight towards the fragment of the godhead in the center of the platform. Snort. But at this moment, an old man snorted coldly, and the terrifying power of rules formed a shield around his body, directly resisting the majestic suppression of the king. As soon as he raised his hand, thousands of sword lights appeared, turning into a golden torrent and sweeping towards Lin You. Was it really broken? Lin Yu's eyes narrowed, and he had already expected this situation to happen, because among the kings present, there were too many with higher attributes than him, so it was naturally impossible for his skills to exert their full effect. Without hesitation, the power of rules exploded, and a huge piranha shadow emerged behind him, swallowing all the sword light in one mouthful, and then exploded in the air. Although he successfully blocked the opponent's attack, he missed the best opportunity to escape the pursuit. But at this moment, the savage roar effect on him disappeared and his speed slowed down. Those lords also took the opportunity to break away from the shackles of the absolute realm and accelerated to catch up. Lin You had no choice but to start the final countdown and reset all states to 1 minute ago. All this happened in the blink of an eye. In just a blink of an eye, all the kings had arrived less than 200 meters away from the fragments of the godhead, and their auras surged wildly around them. "Get out of my way." Just hearing a roar from one of the burly men, a bone-chilling chill broke out on him and swept around him. The expressions of the kings changed and they stepped aside without thinking. The next second, the sharp ice picks rushed out from where they were standing, turned into ice crystals and spread throughout the field, and then exploded into countless ice spikes with a bang, shooting towards the surroundings. However, this level of attack can only act as a hindrance and cannot cause substantial damage to the lords present. With just a wave of his hand, he can directly block the spike attack. Little tricks. Seeing the big man rushing out of the crowd and rushing towards the fragments of the godhead, another person sneered, and a huge ghostly evil eye appeared above his head, blooming with a gray light that looked like substance. Medusa Banshee's 10th level skill. Snake God Gaze. The big man's attention was focused on the fragments of the godhead, and when he was off guard, his whole body was struck by the gaze, and rocks appeared on his body to temporarily seal him in place at the same time. Other kings also took action. Amidst the roars of anger, various large-scale control skills appeared one after another, plunging the entire field into chaos. As long as anyone dares to get close to the fragments of the godhead, they will immediately be attacked by a group of people, and they can only retreat violently to save their lives. That spectacular scene made other low-level lords nearby stunned. It's so scary. Is this a 10th level battle? I feel like any attack can turn me into ashes. I don't know who will snatch that piece of godhead in the end. Probably those old kings from the big realms. The lords were talking and exclaiming. They were all attracted by the battle on the 10th level, speculating on the final ownership of the fragments of the godhead, but didn't notice. In the corner of the platform, a figure surrounded by vines was staring at the battle situation on the field, waiting for the best opportunity. It's now. Seeing that everyone is using their great skills frequently, the consumption is huge. Lin Yu's eyes flashed, and his savage roar was launched directly, turning into an after-image that rushed out of the vine protection and rushed towards the fragment of the godhead in the center of the field. When the other kings saw this, they immediately wanted to stop him. Absolute territory. With a thought in Lin Yu's mind, an invisible wave erupted with him as the center. The kings of all walks of life who were preparing to attack suddenly felt that all the buffs on their body were instantly dissipated and returned to their original state. No, it's a status clearing skill. The expressions of all the kings changed drastically, and even the speed they had just gathered was interrupted. You can break this little trick for me. Just hearing the roars of several old kings, they were ready to use brute force to break away from the skill suppression, but the next second, the power of rules in Lin Yu exploded again. Taking advantage of the fact that they had no status blessing and were weak, they directly activated Qin Gang's gravity field skills. In an instant, the surrounding space sank, violently pressing on all the kings within range. Without the blessing of the buff state, they who had already consumed a lot to resist the pressure of the trial were suddenly suppressed by this continuous rollback, and were forced to move. By the time several powerful kings burst out with force to break through the skill blockade, Lin Yu had already swept into the field, and snatched the fragment of the godhead shining with colorful light. May I ask whether you want to fuse the divine fragments? Once fused, they cannot be restored, so please make your decision carefully. Fusion. Without any hesitation, Lin Yu directly chose fusion. Then the fragment of the godhead in his hand burst into dazzling light, and gradually integrated into his body. At the same time, there was an explosion under his feet, and he quickly rushed towards the outside of the encirclement, court death. Seeing Lin Yu fuse the fragments of his godhead in the blink of an eye, the kings were completely angry. They all jumped up and chased him, and terrifying attacks came down one after another. However, after merging the 7th fragment of his godhead, Lin Yu's strength was already at full blast. The Phantom Walker skill was activated, and the whole person began to become illusory. While moving around, he easily dodged more than half of the attacks. At the same time, phantoms that looked exactly like him appeared next to him, helping him resist the remaining damage. And a small part of the damage that finally fell on him was resisted by his powerful physical attributes and damage reduction skills. Then his body flashed and finally completely disappeared into a phantom. It is Wu Ying's stealth skill, nothingness. Damn it. Let him get away. All the kings looked gloomy, and looked at the direction in which Lin Yu disappeared, but did not continue to pursue him. Because the fragments of his godhead have been completely absorbed, with the strength Lin Yu showed just now, even if they continue to pursue him, they may not be able to kill him. Although I was very unwilling and angry, there was absolutely no need to fight to the death for a moment of anger. In the end, it might affect the trial. So he just took a deep look at the direction where Lin Yu disappeared, and then started to sit down and recover. The low-level lords, who had been paying attention here, were in an uproar, and they did not expect such a result the other side. Lin Yu, who had sneaked away and escaped, quickly retreated to the platform more than 400 floors below, and gradually appeared. Looking back, he finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw no one was chasing him. After all, if there were so many powerful kings chasing him, he would probably have no choice but to escape from the ladder and wait until the limelight has passed before continuing to climb. Fortunately, the worst outcome did not occur. While he was relieved, he couldn't help but get excited. Unexpectedly, during this trial trip, he actually obtained the 7th fragment of the godhead, and finally his trip was not in vain. After taking a look at the wounds everywhere on his body, he didn't stop any longer and retreated directly to the 400th floor platform to recuperate, then clicked on the personal interface. Name, Lin You. Lord. Race, human. Level, level 10, 7/10. Strength, 57,004, plus 39,903. Physique, 71,012, plus 61,070. Agility, 57,004, plus 39,903. Spirit, 71,012, plus 49,708. Basic skills, double mutation, power of rules, space shuttle, rule transformation, power of Godhead, all attributes plus 70%. Racial talent, physical fitness plus 16%, recovery speed plus 16%. Introduction. The Lord attribute interface records the specific strength and various skills of the Lord, which can be unlocked by 10th level Lords. 130,000 physique, 120,000 spirit. These are his attributes after obtaining the 7th fragment of his Godhead. Even without explosive skills, it is already comparable to a D-level Lord monster, so it is not a problem at all in a one-on-one fight. In comparison, because it has always been mainly about strengthening physical and mental strength, strength and agility are slightly weaker. Otherwise, he would not have been caught up so easily by those kings just now, causing him to consume so much physical strength and the power of rules. I rested in the corner of the platform for half an hour before finally returning to full strength, and then got up and prepared to continue climbing. But at this moment, there was a sudden uproar among the crowd in the distance. On the 10th level platform, someone actually successfully climbed to the 700th floor and entered the area of thunder and lightning. Lin You couldn't help but raise his head and look at the vague figure, but the next moment, his expression suddenly changed. It's him. Lin You was shocked, because the figure standing on the 700th floor at this time is none other than the black-eyed young man with that terrifying heart. He didn't expect that after such a long time apart, he would meet each other in this way, and appear so blatantly in front of the emperors from all walks of life. Isn't he afraid of being discovered? What made him even more unexpected was that on this ladder, where the more murderous the intention, the stronger the pressure, that guy could actually reach such a high level, even far ahead of the other lords. And just like him, he reached the 10th level. Lin You didn't understand why that guy could reach such a high place, let alone why he would risk being discovered by climbing the ladder. He glanced at the 12th level area at the other end, which was hundreds of meters away from here. Because there are rules blocking it, the sound cannot be transmitted. Moreover, the emperors have already ascended the ladder to heaven and are not expected to come down for a while, so there is no way to notify them for the time being. I want to see what you are planning. Lin You gradually narrowed his eyes. Get up immediately and continue climbing towards the top. At this time, the lords of all levels have basically reached the 500th floor, but after crossing the 500th floor, the number of people suddenly dropped sharply, with less than 1/10,000th left to go up, and the speed also slowed down. It's all step by step, slowly moving forward with difficulty. Some of them stayed motionless on a certain level. They had obviously reached their limit, and there was a risk of physical collapse if they forced themselves upwards. This is nothing. The biggest obstacle is the lightning, thunder and space cracks that appear from time to time. It is already very difficult to resist coercion, but when faced with such external environmental influences, few can survive. Just as he was thinking about it, a scream suddenly came from not far away. A young 10th level lord on the 600th floor was extremely unlucky. He happened to be the unlucky guy. He was struck by a bolt of lightning, vomited blood and flew backwards, landing heavily on the 600th floor platform. Have the 10th level started to be eliminated there? It seems that the next step will be a protracted battle. Lin You looked solemn and continued to move forward without changing his speed. After fusing the 7th Godhead fragment, he obviously felt much more relaxed than before, and the pressure became much weaker, but he didn't dare to take it lightly, and tried his best to control his breath as smoothly as possible. After a while, he crossed the 500th floor again, and officially entered the second half of the ladder. What followed was an overwhelming wave of terrifying majesty, pressing towards him from all directions, forcing him to activate the 4-leaf protection to increase his attributes to resist. Fortunately, still within the affordable range, Lin You took a deep breath, glanced at the other lords above who were slowly moving forward, and started moving again. His speed was not slow, and he quickly passed the 10th level lords one after another, and successfully climbed to more than 600 floors. Boom! A thunder exploded not far away. At the height of 600 floors, it has touched the boundary of Teichu realm, and the surrounding space has begun to become unstable. Small cracks kept appearing one after another, forcing them to allocate some of their energy to be careful, and the pressure of climbing suddenly increased. Lin You looked around and saw that there were less than 1,000 10th level lords. They were strong and weak, and there were both realm alliances and anti-alliances. However, in this harsh environment, let alone attacking others, it is extremely difficult to resist the pressure, so no one wants to cause trouble, that's all. After spending nearly half an hour, Lin You relied on his extremely enhanced attributes to finally catch up with the vanguard near the 700th floor. The kings who were advancing slowly step by step turned to look at him. Their eyes were sharp, and they immediately recognized him as the person who had just snatched the fragment of the godhead. But even if they wanted to take action at this time, there was nothing they could do. She had to look at him deeply, and then look away again. Lin You looked around and happened to meet a familiar face. It's you. It's you. Two shouts of surprise sounded almost at the same time. Ye Lingyan looked at Lin You, who appeared not far away, with surprise on his face. The same was true for Lin You. He didn't expect to meet Ye Lingyan, who had worked together to kill 10th level monsters here, and at such a high level. Hey, what a coincidence. Lin You raised his hand and said hello casually. He was not surprised that Ye Lingyan could reach the 10th level. After all, the other party had successfully condensed the fragments of his godhead several months ago. What surprised him most was that the other party could maintain the same climbing speed as other old kings, and it didn't look too difficult. If you feel it carefully, you can see that the opponent only has the aura of 2 fragments of his godhead. In other words, it is not because of strength, but because the murderous thoughts in his heart are not serious, and the pressure he receives is weaker than others. It's a coincidence. Ye Lingyan responded gently, not showing any dissatisfaction at Lin Yu's casualness, but looking at him in shock, because she actually felt the aura of 7 fragments of godhead from Lin Yu. This is just how long it has been. It has already reached this level. I'm afraid those great emperors weren't so exaggerated in the early days, right? This made her look at Lin Yu a little differently, but she had more important things to do now, so without saying anything to Lin Yu, she turned around again, and stared at the illusory realm at the top of the ladder, her eyes firmer than ever before. Lin Yu shrugged and ignored it. After all, they didn't know each other very well, so just saying hello was enough. So soon, the two fell into silence again, each resisting the pressure from all directions and continuing upward. In a blink of an eye, come noon, as the number of climbing levels continues to increase, the surrounding environment begins to become increasingly harsh. More and more people are suffering serious injuries because they cannot support themselves, and have to retreat to the bottom of the ladder to recover. Even Lin Yu was struck by several bolts of lightning, and wounds appeared on his body, which were then slowly repaired with the recovery bonus of his racial talent. He didn't dare to consume too much power of rules, because now, just to resist the coercion, I already feel like I can't make ends meet. If this continues, it will only be a matter of time before the power of the rules is exhausted. As more and more people retreated, the entire border grassland became more and more lively. You guys said, how many people will be able to successfully reach the summit in the end? I estimate less than 10. It's less, right? If there are less than 10, then what's the point of opening the door to the world of life? I also feel that this trial is not to prevent us from entering, but rather like a screening. Indeed, you can tell by looking at the top. There are already many people who have climbed to more than 800 floors. The lords who returned were talking a lot and watching the trials at various levels below. After this round of failure experience, many of them have mastered the secrets of the trial and plan to continue climbing after they have recovered. After all, in the living world, with their relatives and friends waiting for them, how could they give up so easily? Look, someone is catching up with that awesome guy. Suddenly, an exclamation interrupted everyone's discussion. Behind the black-eyed young man, who was far ahead on the 10th level platform, a figure surrounded by the aura of life was approaching quickly. In a short while, he evened the gap with the black-eyed young man, and successfully boarded the 900 level platform. This person is no one else. It was Lin Yu, who relied on the blessing of plant-based physique and recovery speed, and relied on the savage roar to surpass the latcomer. You are indeed here. The dark-eyed young man did not appear surprised by Lin Yu's appearance. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the platform to rest, seemingly making final preparations. The pressure of the last 100 levels has reached a very terrifying level, as if the whole world is pressing on him, and it is extremely difficult to even speak. Even Lin Yu had been relying on his healing skills for support. Big beads of sweat kept popping up on his forehead, and had already soaked his clothes. What are you planning this time? Lin Yu got straight to the point, staring at the other person with stern eyes. The reason why he caught up so quickly was to find out this matter. Some things, it's better not to know, the dark-eyed young man said lightly without answering. His condition at this time was not much better. There were wounds all over his body, and his breath was much weaker. Lin Yu couldn't feel any aura from the fragments of his godhead from him, but he could vaguely detect his strength, which was definitely not much weaker than his own. Unfortunately, before he could think about it, the other party slowly stood up and walked towards the last 100 floors. Then there was a pause, and suddenly a word came lightly. The enemies this world faces are far more terrifying than you imagine. We are just pawns. After saying that, he left directly without giving Lin You a chance to react. The enemy of this world. Peace. What's the meaning? Lin Yu was confused, but he could feel that the other party seemed to know something. There was even a hint of bitterness and helplessness in the other person's voice, which made him very unfamiliar, as if he was a different person. Boom. Unexpectedly, there was a sudden muffled sound, interrupting his thoughts. Lin Yu raised his head and looked in the direction of the sound, and found that the dark-eyed young man was half kneeling directly on the platform on the 901st floor, shaking violently. Even the blood vessels on his body burst, splattering large amounts of blood. This is. Lin Yu's pupils shrank, and he was extremely shocked. With the opponent's strength, he couldn't even get up to the 901st floor. You must know that this guy has been far ahead just now. How terrifying is the 100 levels of pressure behind him. Just at this time, the old kings who were seeking stability also arrived one after another and boarded the 900 floor platform. They also saw this scene and were all shocked on the spot. Then a king who possessed 8 fragments of the godhead did not believe in evil and walked over and stepped onto the platform. The next second, his expression suddenly changed, and he quickly withdrew his half foot, taking a few steps back in panic with a look of horror on his face. What's wrong? Is the pressure from above very strong? Someone couldn't help but ask immediately, attracting everyone's attention. Guru. The king swallowed, stretched out his hand to wipe the sweat from his forehead, and said with a frightened face, "No, it's not just strong. I feel that if I step on it, I might die." Wow. When the kings heard this, they immediately caused an uproar. Whether they were already on the platform, or those who had just arrived, they were all shocked by his words. And just then, it was as if someone had been detected stepping into the last 100 floors. On the platform on the 1000th floor, a large dazzling light suddenly lit up. An object wrapped in golden light slowly fell from the sky, attracting everyone's attention. That is, all the kings stood still, staring at the changes at the top of the ladder. When the light dissipated and revealed what was inside, their eyes suddenly widened. Godhead. What appeared at the top of the ladder was actually a complete godhead. I didn't expect that the final reward at the top of the ladder would be something of this level. For a moment, all the kings' breathing became rapid. Some of the old kings among them actually have the ability to rise to the 11th level, but they have always stayed at the 10th level, because they just don't want to rise to become the ration for those top 11th levels. After all, a lord with only one godhead is definitely a piece of cake for those powerful lords, and they will be targeted wherever they go. If an 11th level lord with 8 or 9 pieces of complete godhead happens to lack his series of godhead, then he can almost be sentenced to death. Therefore, they would rather stay at the 10th level and become Earth Emperors than move up to become meat pigs. This is the malice hidden under the rules of this world, and it is also the murderous intention directed at all lords. But if they can get this complete piece of godhead, then after they reach the 11th level, they will be able to have 2 pieces of godhead at once, which will greatly improve their self-protection ability and have a completely different meaning. You must get this godhead. This was the only thought that all the old kings had at this time. Who would want to continue living at the 10th level if he could safely reach the 11th level? Stop talking about them. Even the other slightly younger kings all showed greedy expressions. Even if they don't use this complete godhead for fusion, its value alone can be used to exchange it with the 11th level lords in their own realm for godhead fragments, and even a large amount of resources that they can't even imagine. If you can get it, it can almost be regarded as a sudden rise, and instantly become the top 10th level in the entire world. Let's go and give it a try first. Immediately, a few couldn't resist the temptation, and walked towards the next level of stairs and began to try to climb. But at this moment, a change occurred. The black-eyed young man, who had been suppressed on the platform, suddenly roared and slowly stood up covered in blood. Immediately afterwards, a huge heart phantom appeared behind him, blooming with a dazzling black light. Bang bang, bang bang. The dull beating of the heart kept echoing in everyone's ears. Every beat was like a heavy hammer hitting their hearts hard, causing them to turn pale and retreat in shock. Even Lin You, who was recovering, was extremely surprised. Unexpectedly, before he could convey the news, the other party had already used the power of his heart, and it was still in full view of the public. For a moment, the eyes of all the great emperors on the ladder were attracted, and their expressions changed. It's the heart. Over there on the 10th level. It actually appears in a place like this. Since the start of the Realm War, the emperors from both camps have been looking for the whereabouts of the heart, trying to strangle it in the cradle while trying to gain its power. But the heart's ability to conceal its aura and escape is extremely powerful, and even with their strength they can't track it down. But now, that heart appeared in front of them so blatantly. How could they not be shocked? Immediately, several great emperors wanted to break through the barrier and go to the 10th level field to intercept the heart. However, they were bounced back by the invisible force on the ladder. No. The level of the rules here is too high and there is no way to break it. The emperor who retreated said in a deep voice, "This trial ladder leading to the world of life is the result of the highest rules of all worlds, and it also contains the power of transcendence. Even though they are powerful, there is no way to interfere." It seems that he calculated this accurately and dared to expose it like this. No matter what, let's ask someone to guard him below. He will definitely not be allowed to escape this time. The others speed up to the top and go to the living world to intercept and kill him. The emperor on the anti-alliance side immediately made a decision and prepared to attack from both sides. The emperors of the realm alliance looked at each other, nodded to each other, and gradually accelerated their climbing speed, heading towards the top of the ladder. On the ladder, the atmosphere began to become different from before, and at this time, behind the base camp of the realm alliance, there is an abyss thick with evil aura. The huge skeleton floating in the air suddenly flashed with will-o'-the-wisps, and also felt the breath of the heart. Finally, my heart vessel appears. The extremely cold voice continued to echo in the abyss. Then, another roar of laughter came, causing the evil energy in the entire abyss to surge crazily. But the strange thing is that the skull did not leave the abyss to find the heart. On the contrary, after laughing wildly, it fell silent again, as if nothing had happened. When you zoom out to the outside of the abyss, you can still see the bones on the ground and the terrifying blood pools. There are monsters and humans, stretching for miles. On top of the ladder, no matter how everyone reacted, the black-eyed young man was still mobilizing the power of his heart. Then, as if he had gained some kind of divine power, he began to climb up again. Although the speed was extremely slow, like a snail crawling, he still walked step by step towards the 902nd floor platform, and walked up with difficulty. This made the lords below immediately anxious, for fear that the complete piece of godhood would be taken away by him. Many people immediately followed, and came to the edge of the 901 floor platform. This also includes Lin You. Although he can't use the complete godhead yet, if he can get it, it will still be of great benefit to him. If he couldn't get it, he wouldn't force it. After all, his life was at stake. After thinking about it, he slowly raised his feet and stepped onto the platform on the 901st floor. Boom! Suddenly, a vast and boundless pressure fell, as if the whole world was squeezing him, and his whole person turned into a speck of dust between heaven and earth. Even though he had been mentally prepared, Lin You was suddenly pressed to the ground half kneeling, with veins all over his body protruding. There were even muffled groans from other kings nearby, and they vomited blood and flew back, unable to even hold a breath. What a terrifying pressure! Lin You was horrified. This last 100 levels of pressure were no longer something ordinary people could resist. Calculated by doubling each level, that is more than 500 times at the beginning. Just taking one step forward consumes a lot of physical energy. If it weren't for his racial talent and physical fitness, he might not be able to support it. It only takes a blink of an eye. Less than half of the hundreds of kings who climbed to the 900th floor were left, and they climbed to the next level with great difficulty. What surprised Lin You was, Lin You, whom I had met halfway before, was actually among them. I saw her gritting her teeth and staring at the top of the stairs, moving forward step by step, not much slower than those old kings. Seeing them walking further and further away, he calmed down and moved forward with heavy steps. 901,905,910. As the stairs continued to rise, the pressure around them became stronger and stronger. Gradually, some people could no longer hold on and hurriedly retreated. When Lin You arrived at the 920th floor, there were less than 100 people around him, and it almost took a long time to move forward. Even the dark-eyed young man, who relies on the power of his heart, is currently stuck on the 925th floor, unable to move forward. Even though there was only a 5-level difference, even if Lin You launched a barbaric roar at this time, he might not be able to catch up. The power of that heart is really terrifying. If you want to catch up with that guy, you have to find another way. And if we continue at this rate, I'm afraid no one will be able to successfully climb to the top today. The 950th floor should be the limit. Even he felt extremely strenuous at this time. There were wounds all over his body that had burst open due to the pressure. His feet were trembling as if they were filled with lead. There were bursts of stinging pain with every step. It was extremely difficult to walk, retreat. The other kings obviously noticed this, and without any hesitation, they gave up climbing and retreated. I plan to go back and make full preparations before coming back to attack the last few dozen levels of the chasm. Lin You didn't show off. He knew that his basic attributes were lower than those of the old kings, and even they couldn't continue, let alone him. After hesitating for a moment, he immediately retreated from the rapids and followed them back. Under the reaction force of the coercion, he quickly retreated all the way down to the bottom of the ladder. He felt relaxed all over, and an unprecedented sense of pleasure came to his heart. It seems that we need to make more preparations. Lin You raised his head and looked at the top of each level. Basically, the highest level only reached about level 920, and it was difficult to advance any further. From this point of view, he should still have enough time to prepare. It's not too late to wait until you have accumulated enough strength before launching an attack on the ladder. The ladder trial also seems to know that they can't get anyone to the top so quickly, so they will refresh corresponding treasures on each level every once in a while, attracting countless lords to stay on it and scramble for it frantically. The only pity is, after the Godhead fragment appeared once on the 500th floor, the treasures that appeared again turned into regular fragments, and Lin Yu's idea of getting one or two more Godhead fragments was instantly dashed. Seeing that there was not much power of rules left in his body, he did not stay any longer and prepared to teleport back to the territory to rest for a while. Unexpectedly, as soon as he turned around, he saw Situ Jian holding the bloody Yan lie back down the stairs and hurriedly onto the grassland outside. How did he get hurt like this? Lin Yu suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. There are no rules on the grassland, and you can control the space at will, so teleportation is naturally not restricted. Lin Yu, you came just in time. Seeing Lin Yu appear, Situ Jian was shocked and quickly asked him for help. Quick, help Yan Lai to get some treatment. This guy just tried his best to reach the 900th floor, but he ended up like this due to the pressure from above. Due to coercion, Lin Yu didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and a healing light shone fiercely on him. The power of the 10th level healing skill is used to treat a 9th level lord. The effect is still very powerful, almost immediate, and the injury recovers at a speed that is noticeable to the naked eye. But after Yan Lai woke up, he struggled to get up. Don't stop me. I must pass the test today. Xiaoru is still waiting for me, over there. Roaring, he desperately wanted to rush to the ladder again. Yan Ru is also his sister's name.
Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.